Ryan interviewed Jack Wicks, a rent-to-rent expert, trainer, and public speaker. Ryan takes Jack deep into his past deals, where Jack shares his biggest failures when he lost 6 figures on one deal at the start of his business, and what he learned from that early experience to enable him to go on to do 6 deals in 6 months, and currently on his 18th successful property deal. Jack shares how his company is helping beginners get started and build their own property businesses, and there's some goosebump moments in this episode, so be sure to listen to the full thing. Mastermind on Mondays. Every Monday at 10 a.m, Ryan hosts a live mastermind session in the Facebook community group called the Property Crash Course. Get your burning questions answered around business, entrepreneurship, property investment, and more. Just post your question, problem, or challenge in the community group and tune into the live show called Mastermind on Mondays at 10 a.m.
Okay, so just welcoming Jack to the podcast, Jack Wicks. We're going to just talk about property, some recent deals, what's going on in the market right now, just to give you guys as much value as possible. So, yeah, go for it. Why don't you introduce yourself to the audience and let them know a bit about yourself, Jack?
Cool. Hi, Ryan. Yeah, thanks for inviting me on, mate. Been watching your TikToks. That's how we ended up getting connected. So I'm a property investor from Surrey. So I'm just outside of London. I've been full-time for 5 or 6 years now. Various strategies, rent-to-rent being the predominant one. Obviously, the area is quite expensive that I'm in, so we've had to be quite creative in terms of the way we structure deals. I'm big on the creative stuff, lease options, assisted sales, rent-to-rents, anything you can name, anything weird and wonderful I'm interested in.
Brilliant. So, yeah, just going back to what you said, I actually saw you on TikTok. First of all, I've been following some of your things on there. And then obviously you've been commenting on some of our videos. I think TikTok's fantastic. What do you think about TikTok right now?
Yeah, so I've been really surprised. So I decided to set myself a target of 60,000 followers in 60 days. And actually I've been really surprised in terms of what's come from it. So obviously it's a lot younger. A lot of these guys haven't heard of, what a mortgage is, and it's all real basic stuff. But there's a hell of a lot more, teenagers now that are interested in actually investing and looking towards their future. Because I know when I was 16, I was busy going out or buying clothes or spunking my money any which way, and it wasn't even on my radar to invest. So I've been really surprised. I think it's a bit of a 50-50 camp in terms of people just abusing you on TikTok or people wanting to know more and wanting to know information. But what I found overall is that TikTok have made it super easy to share and also to link you to other platforms. So they've got literally a button that links to your Instagram straight away. They just press it. They're not trying to hide it or encrypt it like Instagram and Facebook do. They just share and let everybody go everywhere. So my inbox on my Instagram's gone crazy with people asking, how do I get started? What do you recommend for a 15, 16-year-old? What book should I read? What podcast listen to? And it's been crazy, really. And my Instagram followers have increased as well since doing it. So I've been pleasantly surprised, actually.
Yeah, no, I think it's great. It's like the reach on there. If nobody made it as a Facebook influencer or a YouTuber and they might have missed the boat before, the amount of followers and traction and follow everything that you can get in a short space of time, because they're just hungry for information on there. Like the organic reach is just off the scale. You can post one video and it gets like 50,000 plays and stuff. It's
which you've done. I've seen it. It's a funny one, isn't it? I think I'm kind of I'm changing my content on there specifically because it's a different age and it's a different, most of my stuff on Instagram is a little bit more high level in terms of, I know that people kind of that are following me know what property is and know the basics and stuff, and I'm just trying to educate them on, what we've done, the mistakes we've made. I'm big on that, telling everyone all the mistakes, and but it just needs to be brought down another level for TikTok, I think, and go real basic. I mean, like I said, I've been trying to think of, maybe creating a product that is, maybe an ebook or something just real basic, so that everybody can just have a resource where they can learn all the lingo and, what does a remortgage mean? How do I even buy a house? How does a value work? All these things that seem really obvious to us who've been in the game for a while, but for these 15, 16-year-olds, it could be that light bulb moment that I had at 24, where I was like, holy shit, you can remortgage for the higher value and get all your money back out. Like that was when I learned that on a free event that I went to. That was it for me. Ever since then, I was all in property, because I was just like, this makes sense now. These landlords that are running around with like 500 properties, they haven't just been given the money to buy it. They're not like born into wealth. They've just refinanced and refinanced and refinanced, and that, you know, that's one of the biggest pluses of property is how leveraged it can be.
Oh, definitely. I mean, something you said there, for me, it was Robert Kiyosaki. Robert Kiyosaki explained to me about other people's money, other people's time. I followed everything he did from around the millennium when he first brought out his book, Rich Dad Poor Dad. A friend of mine introduced me to it who was in finance. I went to school with. He's still a very good friend now. And he gave me the book and said, I know you'll love this. This book is just fire. You know, just read this. So I literally read it cover to cover, the first book. Then I bought every book. I went on every webinar he had from the millennium to learn about OPM, other people's money, and OPT, other people's time. And that got me through my first property deal, which was just around the corner from the block of flats you bought. I started to buy. I was looking in Hastings back then at the millennium.
Cool.
And then I found something right by, what's the square? Wellington Square, just opposite McDonald's. That square, Wellington Square, is a flat for £17,000 in the year 2000.
That was the square that block was on. That was on Wellington Square.
Really? Oh my God, I didn't even know it's the same
Number
block.
1A Wellington Square. Yeah.
Wow. Because Wellington Square was right in the town centre, overlooking like the McDonald's and the bridge and everything. And then it was £17,000. It needed loads of work. And then I bought something else in Bexhill for 42,500 opposite Edgerton Park with sea views. And people said, really, you're mad. You get stuff in Hastings for 15, 20 grand. But I bought this flat. It was a very good deal at the time. But yeah, I nearly bought one in the same place as you. So tell me about that block.
Yeah, why not go into that depressing time of mine? Yeah, no, I'm. Yeah, you know what? It's the amount I learned from that one deal is for me, it's worth every penny. And you know, it's painful and it was a horrible time. But I think where I was in that place there at 25 years old with one successful deal in the bank, going on to this other bigger deal, and you know, it kind of going wrong was the learnings I took from that were absolutely incredible, because I always almost I'm thankful that it happened so early on in my investing career, because I think if that went well and I made money out of that, I'd have gone bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger until, you know, like dominoes, everything would have fallen down on the big deal, realizing that actually I didn't know what I was doing. I was just getting lucky.
Yeah.
So it was, our first ever deal was a block of 4 flats in Hastings. That went really well. We bought that for 250 grand. It was a block of 4 flats off market. The guy just wanted rid. So we did that. Spent around 70k on works. We basically converted it from 3 1-beds and a 2-bed to 3 2-beds and a 1-bed, and then got a revalue at 450k, and refinanced with 340 grand mortgage. So pretty much pulled out every penny, and on to the next one. And I was 24, going, I told you, I know what I'm doing, after one free course that I went on. And the same agent came up to us and said, look, I've got another off-market deal here. This is a big one. Is this something that interests you? So we went around and had a look, and it was grade 2 listed. It's an ex-hotel. It's got an amazing history, which was kind of why I fell in love with it as well. I mean, if you Google Wellington Square in Hastings, you can there's a picture of like horse and cart being drawn around the square and stuff. It's absolutely amazing. So you walk in and you've got all this like mosaic tiles on the floor, like wooden staircase twirling round, all the, you know, the ceiling roses, the picture frame, everything was just awesome. It was really dilapidated, but you could see the potential of this, and all the high ceiling, every flat was like double height ceilings, and it was just incredible. So we walked around there in love with it. I remember walking across the square with my parents going, if that's anything less than £1 million, then we've got to try get it. And I got a call that evening. She was like, look, you want 750 for it. So I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. Said to her, you know, what renovated, what can we get these flats? What do you reckon they'll be valued? And she gave us all these values and how much it cost to do the works and all this stuff. So on that premise alone, we went and decided to exchange. So we did what's called a delayed completion. So we exchanged with a 6-month delay in completion, and he allowed us access because they were empty. to do works on the flat. So the idea was we'd go in, do the works, increase the value, buy it at the new value, and not have to come up with a deposit. So when we got the revalue done and it came back at 725, and we'd agreed 750 to buy it after all the works, we were a little bit upset to find that out. But like I say, it was huge learning because we did no other research. We didn't get other agents' valuations of what it'd be done up. We didn't get any builders' quotes or anything along those lines. We just got people in on a day rate. So yeah, just everything about it. When I look back at it, I'm just like, it's crazy on a deal of that grandeur as well to have done such little about it and just to think that it'd all be okay. So yeah, we eventually split the titles down and sold it all in auction and came out at 100k plus in the red basically. So yeah, it was a painful lesson, but yeah, I'm now stood here. You know, the lessons I learned, I now know how to split titles, how to make a freehold worth as much money without making a leasehold worth less because you've favoured the freehold so much. I know the legal process of it. I know a delayed completion. All these different things that have come from it are just so valuable in terms of becoming a part of my skill set, really.
Oh, definitely. I mean, it's a shame that you lost money on it, but like you said, that you did it with that deal early on instead of getting to, instead of it being a deal for 5.5 million or something, and then you make the same mistakes and it's magnified. But it's normally when you look back in hindsight at the time, you're thinking the world's come to an end. But when you look back, all the lessons you've learned and obviously all the skills you got, you just take it on to the next deal. So it's good that it happened early.
Yeah. And do you know what else? It's that feeling you get in your gut and your stomach when things are not going to plan, and you can see why, and you get that guilt, and you're risking other people's money here. All those feelings. Whenever I'm going into new deals now, I almost go back to that place, and I'm just like, fucking get this right this time. You know what? You know, you don't want to be in that position. You don't want to feel like that, because I was driving from Surrey to Hastings once a week. So I was living there with my now wife was living at home. So I was spending 3 to 4 days a week in Hastings, coming home, doing all the driving, doing all the work. And I'm not a manual guy. I was just doing what I can to kind of get it through as cheaply as possible. And or, you know, the odd song comes on the radio. I'm like, oh my God, it takes me straight back to that drive where I was driving there again, dreading going in there. And it's those little things that come back to you to make you go, no, do not double check them figures. Get somebody else's opinion. You know, get another builder's quote if you need to. Don't, because in property as well, you find a lot of people try and rush you on things, which is nuts. They want a decision. Come on, are you going to exchange now? And it's like, well, hold on. It doesn't need to be done that quickly. And you realize it's because everybody's out for themselves and there isn't somebody else that's knocking on the door trying to get this deal. They just want your money as quickly as possible. And I think, another lesson I learned is that there's an abundance of deals and you don't need to chase the one deal. You know, some of these deals look like they're going to be the best thing in the entire world. And then next week, another one comes up and it's the same, or, you know, there's such an abundance of deals that you really don't need to rush anything.
Definitely. And where are you finding them, like mainly through agents, through direct to vendors? What do you have the most success with?
So that was bearing in mind that was 5-6 years ago now. That was through an agent. So we basically did exactly what we were told to do on the course. We walked the streets to see the nicer areas, the worse areas. We were taking numbers down off of for sale boards. We called one where we were walking around and she just said, oh, that one's not that good, but I've got another one that's not on the market yet. And we were like, oh my God, they've literally told us this would happen in the course. So yeah, it was all that kind of stuff. So through agents I love dealing with agents because they're a very cheap sourcing agent, in my opinion. You've just got to learn how to converse with them and deal with them. They can be quite difficult. They're a cocky bunch who think they because they've been in property for X amount of years, they know everything there is to know about property. And you've got to kind of stroke ego whilst getting them to do what you need them to do. But yeah, moving forward now, we've kind of gone predominantly rent to rent in Surrey for cash flow. That was born from obviously having to work in Hastings and not having an income because I just quit my job. And quickly realised that it was a very good way to make money on a monthly basis. So in the first 12 months we did 12 deals. So we've got a total of 18 now. 4 years we've been doing rent to rent, 4 or 5 years. So we've got 18 in total. We've given some back, taken some better ones on, and that's our kind of primary income.
Wow, that's ideal. I've been using that strategy for since about 2004, when I just came across it from a company called Northwood.
Oh
Northwood
yeah.
UK. So I found Northwood a long, long time ago, and I just thought, hold on a minute, that sounds interesting. And we had some investors. They used to buy property from us. We used to buy sites, developments, mainly in London and the southeast, because we didn't go north, because it just had a north-south divide, and we didn't really know much about it, and just thought, stay south. It's prime, basically, staying south. Then we started to get lots of investors that was approaching my company saying we want deals. So we needed to find more deals, because some we would keep, some we would sell. And in the end, it was like, how can we find more deals? And then we just noticed more in the north and the Midlands, they're constantly building. There's a lot more properties, and they're mainly new build. So we decided, how can we sell deals to our investors as like a package and let them still have confidence, even though they're not in the southeast? So we decided to actually mystery shop. We mystery shopped Northwood, found out everything that they did, how their system worked. We didn't go on there was no training thing back then, around 2004, 2005. And just found out how this system worked, which was very simple. It just enabled them to rent property from a landlord or whatever figure they agreed. And then you can do what you want with it, because you're now controlling it as if you're the landlord. So then you can charge whatever you want as long as it works. So in the end, we decided to find deals and blocks for investors outside their comfort zone, which was London, and lease them back from them, because their biggest fear was, well, it's in the north, so what if it doesn't rent for 3 months? All the money we were due to make is now a bad investment. So we said, don't worry about that. We'll just lease it back off you for up to 5 years. And if you're going to sell it in 5 years or 3 years, that's your strategy. You know exactly what you get at the start, and you know exactly what you get at the end. So that's how we came across this, what they call rent to rent now.
Yeah.
But you use it as service accommodation? Do you do the rooms like HMOs, or?
We do rooms as HMOs. I mean, another learning curve was service accommodation. You kind of get the picture. I'm an all-in kind of guy. I found out about service accommodation. I was like, wow, okay, because we were already doing quite well with the HMO model, but obviously they're bigger properties, 4-bedroom plus. There's a lot less of them around, a bit more difficult to get hold of. And then even when you find them, you've got to then persuade the landlord that, can I turn it into an HMO? Can I do these works? So we were finding, it was quite difficult to get a good stream of properties. So then I found out a service accommodation. I was like, okay, well, every property in a decent area can be used as service accommodation. So this sounds superb. I went on a course. Within 2 weeks, I had 2 blocks of flats. I had a block of 4 in Staines High Street, and a block of 6 in Hounslow. The Hounslow ones speak for themselves. There's not the nicest area in terms of we really struggled there with antisocial behaviour and gangs, sort of using our properties, basically taking them on Airbnb on somebody else's credit card that they'd stolen it from. We were none the wiser. We were calling them, doing all our checks, and then police are called, and it was just a nightmare. So we ended up losing a fair whack on those as well, to be fair. So I haven't really delved too much into service accommodation. I know it works. Some of my business partners do really, really well from it. But I think I was naive in thinking, or I was told on the course especially, that with service accommodation, you can get this property, stick some furniture in it, chuck it on Airbnb and Booking.com, and then let the money roll in. That's it. You're done. Get a management company, then the money comes in. And it's simply not the case. There's a lot more to be involved in. You essentially sign up to become a hotelier. You need to go above and beyond to get your guests continuing to come, to pick you over others. It's so hotly contested at the moment as well, even more so now. I mean, we exited about 18 months ago, so it got even bigger now. I think I think what I'd be interested in doing is fit for purpose serviced accommodation. So, for instance, I know somebody in Wales in the valleys. He bought a property. He turned that into off-road bike accommodation. So it's obviously in the hills, and they got all these trails and stuff. So what he did, he had the sort of like chipboard interior stuff. So it was quite sort of quirky, but he had hooks and stuff for people to put their bikes. On the outside, he had like jet washers and stuff, so they can jet wash their clothes and their boots and their bike and stuff. Had the barbecue outside, beer fridges, so that these groups of like 10 friends would all go there to go biking, and they were in this place that was just fit for purpose. They had a place to chill out after they'd been biking. They could wash their bikes, store them securely. Everything was fit for purpose and kind of bike themed. And he's full like 24/7. Because they're going to pick him over any a standard accommodation that doesn't have those extra bits. Even if you're slightly more expensive, you're going to pick them over the others because it's just made for you. And I think that's where I'd be interested in going in is something like that, because it's a no-brainer for the customers then, because they're getting the best value from that property.
They certainly are. And when it's themed like that, we see a lot more themed properties coming on. I mean, I've got a large service accommodation portfolio we're in multiple cities now: Brighton, Eastbourne, Portsmouth, Southampton, Poole, all across the south coast, basically, and a block.
All the party spots. I'll have to give you a call when we're allowed out.
Definitely, yeah, I know. Bournemouth, Southampton, Portsmouth, Brighton, they really are. And we've noticed more and more themed hotels coming on, or themed accommodation coming on, where it's just something different, like you said. And that is instead of someone going to the conventional hotel or just a normal 2-bedroom apartment where it's all the same in the block, the themed ones are really standing out. And in Brighton now, they've even brought out, it's crazy, and it's on booking.com, it's a sex dungeon.
Wow.
On booking.com. It's unbelievable. And we was watching it thinking that's not really going to work. But then because it's Brighton and then Kent Town and all the shenanigans that go on here, and people are leaving reviews on there publicly, we was like, they're never going to get a single review. But now they've got loads of reviews. If you just look in Brighton, it's just unbelievable. It's shocking. And it's on booking.com. But there's lots of theme things, but we see that all the time, and it makes us laugh. We even booked it once.
Yeah, I mean,
it's funny. Oh, it's frozen. You still there?
Yeah, that old chestnut. Just to see, I'm just doing some research.
It froze then. It just glitched for a second.
Yeah.
But there you go.
Up a little bit, but that's cool.
Yeah, it's just come back. It just paused. So tell me about the HMOs. Did you rent them from the landlords, and then you get the licenses and everything else, or the landlord got the licenses on it?
Yeah. So for me, I'm very good at negotiating when I can see the benefit of both sides. So I know a lot of people will rent an HMO and then re-rent it for a higher price, but I've always struggled with that idea unless it's really run down. I've always struggled with that idea because why would that be a benefit to the landlord when they could just rent it out for hire? You're essentially just sort of profiteering, in my opinion. Whereas with a single let, we're then converting it for our own, with our knowledge and our money, and we're increasing the value of the rent because we're changing the use of the property. So us to pay them a single let rate and then turn it into a multi-let, and us take the multi-let rate, is perfectly okay in my head and my morals to be like, well, they were only ever going to rent it as a single let. They were never going to rent as an HMO, and they don't have the knowledge or the management capability to do so. So yeah, for me, it's quite an easy one. I mean, in terms of negotiation, if the place is in a real bad state and the figures don't work for us, I'll always ask them to, that's going to need a new carpet. Are you willing to do that while we do everything else? But I'm not going to ask them to pay for a license that they didn't want in the first place.
Yeah, that makes sense. And you've got a few of those now.
Yeah. Well, that's all we do. Yeah, our 18 are all single let to HMOs.
Right. Okay. In your particular area, or are they wherever the deals are? Hastings, Surrey.
Yeah, they're in our particular area because one, there's a better level of tenant, typically anyway, here, because the prices are higher. So So obviously we get people that respect the rooms more. We get less problems in our HMOs than I get in my single lets in Hastings. But
Really?
yeah, they tend to stay longer because the prices are so high around here. When people move into a room, it's not normally because it's a stepping stone. It's normally because that's what they can afford. It's close to work, so that's where I'm going to live. And I think today's day and age are a lot more used to house sharing than the older generation. So my dad still can't get his head around it. He's like, oh, they must be down on their luck. They must be, you know. And it's like, well, you can't buy a house for 20 grand like you used to be able to, mate. So. Yeah, and obviously the level. I mean, our houses are lovely. They're not high end. Don't get me wrong, because there's only so much we're willing to spend on someone else's house. But they're clean, they're tidy, they're bright, they're modern, and we make sure that in terms of our USP as a company, we call our rooms honest rooms, and that's exactly what we are. We create really nice spaces, and we are very on top of our management. We want to make sure that more than anything, that our tenants are retained. I don't think people put enough effort in with HMOs to retain tenants. They're more worried about getting new ones in to stop voids. But then if you retain your tenant and you keep them happy and you offer them everything they can need in a property, then your retention rate's going to be so much higher. Your turnover rate's going to be so much better. So we really focus on that. I mean, we offer our tenants a discount club that we pay for. So they get discounts on Sainsbury's, Ubers, cinemas, absolutely everything, Uber Eats and all that kind of stuff, just for signing up to be a tenant. That's what they get as part of our service. So we check in on them regularly, asking them, how's the house? How are the cleaners doing? Is the garden being looked after by the gardeners that we also pay for? How are the other tenants? Is everyone getting on? Is there anything we need to do to step in? Just kind of making them feel like we actually give a shit about them, because I think a lot of HMO landlords just kind of chuck them in and go, this is brilliant, look how much money I'm making, and they're almost treated like a number and just an income stream, whereas as we know, it's everybody's human, and the more we look after our tenants, who are essentially our customer when you look at it like that, then the better our lives are. The more they look after the properties, the more they're willing to pay, the longer they're willing to stay. The benefits are endless.
Definitely. And I mean, I know lots of landlords in the past that have just, even for the student portfolios as well, just thrown a mattress in the corner and that's it. Don't care about the tenants, don't do any maintenance, and just when they complain, put another one in, waiting for them to move out. But it just loses money. The voids, like you said, and the hassle and the problems and the name and the reputation, it just loses money. So I think what you're doing is fantastic.
Yeah, and really I think respect is twofold, isn't it? If you show no respect to your potential tenants by not bothering to paint it, not bothering to take a nice picture, putting some crappy mattress in return, you're going to get disrespect from the tenants, who aren't going to respect the house. They're going to break stuff if they want to. When they leave, they're going to leave it in a state. And I think if landlords thought more about that, and if the shoe was on the other foot and they were the tenant, and the landlord looked after them really well, you're going to feel obliged to do the same. I don't want to cause him hassle. He's been so good to me. Don't get me wrong. You still get the arseholes that take the mick, and they'll, that's just part and parcel of life. I think you have to accept that some people just are bad eggs, and they've.
Let me step in real quick. I share a ton of business and investment tactics on this show. And it's a shame that there's no interaction on a platform like this, which is why I've created a Facebook community group called Property Crash Course, where I get to answer all of your questions. So you just post a deal or post a question and I'll show you where the money is in your deal or answer your question for you. So help me to help you and your business right now by asking me anything you need help with. Does that sound fair? Just go to Facebook and then search the groups and then type in Property Crash Course.
So we're talking about obviously the tenants, looking after the tenants. Some landlords don't look after them, and then it just completely went.
Yeah. So basically, that is a big part of what we do, and I think landlords are realizing more than ever that it's important. I live near a place called Egham, and they've got the Royal Holloway University, which is really famous, like really high end. Like it looks like Hogwarts. It's insane. So most of Egham is a student town, and my God, you just see the properties in there, and they are exactly what you said. Landlord's got this, not even a mattress in there. It's some old pine, classic pine, hardy furniture that the old landlords used to love, chucked in there with no mattress on, and they've just taken a picture of it, chuck it online. One picture of the front of the house sometimes. They don't even take pictures inside, and they just expect them to get taken at the highest level. That's where I can see value in subletting or doing what we do with an already run HMO, because they're not offering any value in terms of even a good picture. So we can step in, increase the value of the property just by renovating it in terms of like sort of design. Really, a lot of it's design based, especially with students. I find they want somewhere they're going to go back from uni and feel inspired. They don't want to go back to some pine wooden box room where the landlord's just done everything as cheaply as possible. Like they need vibrant colors and somewhere they're going to want to sit and study with a bit of like emotion in it. And I think that's where the value can be added.
I know, and the thing is that the market's completely changed. It used to just be as basic as that. But now, all these new student blocks, smart blocks, they got snooker rooms, they got lifts, they got flexible 1-month contracts, brand new buildings, all their friends together in this nice ensuite place. And they're only a little bit more than the local student properties. We've got a large portfolio of student properties as well. So we do.
Oh, cool.
We do various things all to do with properties. We've got a large student portfolio as well. And we tend to get some of those deals on a lease contract. And something you said earlier about, well, why would a landlord, how could you pay below the market rent for a fully licensed HMO and then rent it for a lot more? And I mean, because we target student areas, if I said, for example, Brighton, because we target student areas, we find lots of these properties where it's fully licensed HMO, whether it's 5 beds or 8 bedrooms, and the landlord has done nothing, doesn't really do the work. They've had it so good and got 4 or 5 grand for the last 4 years, 4 or 5 grand a month. They've done nothing at all to the property. And now they've built thousands of properties here on the campus in Brighton. There's thousands now. 2,000 on one thing at Falmouth, 1,200 at the other one. They're everywhere. They just knocked down a Boots and turned it into high-rise student flats. They're everywhere. So these landlords are just sitting scratching their heads like, well, how am I not getting 5 grand anymore for my 8-bed? What's happening? And this happens every year around September. So as soon as they get to this cutoff at September where the college and the unis have started, they're sitting empty with these properties they used to get 5 grand for, and we find them and do deals with them, and we're getting some of them up to 75% below the market rent, just because it would sit empty all the way through. It would just sit empty.
So that's your value, isn't it? In terms of rather than looking at it 75% less than what they have been getting, it's actually 25% more than they would get if they didn't go with you.
Well, yeah, if you look at the local market rent compared to the HMO values of the rooms, but I mean, some of them we're getting. For example, we did a deal the other day during the lockdown about 3 or 4 days ago. It's just last week. We get them from agents. The agents come back to us. What's happened is the students have just left, not paid the rent, haven't got the money, too embarrassed, just gone back to China, Hong Kong, everywhere else, South Korea, and just left the property in a mess. So between now to September, obviously it will just sit empty. So we're picking up there's a 6-bed HMO I got the other day, fully licensed, vibrant colours, new kitchen, new bathroom in January. And we got it at £850. And it rents for 228. It normally rents at 2.8, just to bridge the gap. But we get lots of deals like that, and especially around September in Brighton, Portsmouth, Southampton, where all the unis are. So you might even find some in your area.
Are you looking to purchase any of these? Are you using lease options, anything like that?
Well, to be honest, the strategy for a long time has been, we ask them, would you rather sell? And if they say yes, we would, then we would just obviously do a delayed completion or do an option. We'll lease it with a guaranteed rent, and then just slip the option in and say at any time between 2 to 5 years, we'll buy it at that figure. We'll give them a little bit of an uplift as well if the price rises, so they're happy. But yeah, we used to use that a lot from about 2008, which when most people wanted to sell, would find them on guaranteed rent back then. Most landlords wanted to sell, couldn't sell, or couldn't get the money they wanted, so they'd say, let's just rent it. So we would market for guaranteed rent back then just after the crash. obviously they come on board for the guaranteed rent, and then we ask them that question, like you said, would you rather sell? They're like, absolutely, but I couldn't get the 150 grand I wanted. They offered 120. If I could get 140, I would rip their arm off. So we'd say, fine, we'll take it at 140. We'll give you the guaranteed rent. We just need, 3 to 5 years to complete. And we got lots of deals like that on options on the back of the crash.
Yeah, I think that's the sort of thing, and a lot of people automatically look at this sort of stuff and go, well, you're profiteering, you're taking advantage, all this kind of stuff. But it's looking at it with, well, I don't know what the opposite of rose tinted glasses is, but it's the opposite. I see people doing it all the time, and it's like when this first happened, we sent an email out to our tenants saying, look, this is the situation. Here's how it works. A payment holiday for your rent isn't free rent. It's basically delayed to give you 3 months grace if you need it, but then it will be added onto the contract. So then we included, if you guys need any help, we've compiled a list of resources for you. Go and check out X, Y, Z, blah, 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 blah. If you're struggling to understand these things, fill out this expenses sheet. And this is if you're struggling to understand. So we asked them, fill out this expenses sheet. We'll look through it for you, and then we'll tell you what you can or can't get as a help, right? So a couple of the tenants, one specifically, came back in this angry email. Oh, well, this looks like it's nice advice, but actually all it ends up in is you getting your money. And it was like, well, I mean, you could look at it like that, but actually we're just trying to help you pay your rent if you possibly can with potentially government money. And what was it at the end? The expenses sheet bit. Why don't you just turn us upside down and shake us for your money? And it was like, however, like, if you want to look at it like we're doing that, we're actually just trying to help people out. And yeah, it ends up our business gets paid, obviously, but actually it's better that you pay your rent now than delaying it for 3 months and then your rent increases and you're going to have to pay it anyway. So if we can help you get government paid rent or at least some help, then yeah. And it's the same thing with the creative strategies, is that, like you said, someone's struggling, they can't sell for the price they need to cover their mortgage. And they're sat there going, what the hell do I do? They don't know anything else. So when we come up to them and say, well, actually, let me guarantee you rent for 5 years, or even let me just babysit your mortgage or whatever, so you can walk away from that property and have no stress, no worries ever again. We will just deal with that. And then we'll buy it off you and you'll get a little bit of money on top at the back end. Then, you could look at that from one end and go, greedy landlords. But if it wasn't for us, they would either go bankrupt, have to hand the keys back to the mortgage company, or try and find the difference between the value now because it's crashed and the mortgage amount that they've got. It could be 20 grand they'd have to pay the mortgage company just to not get repossessed.
I know,
So
it's shocking.
whichever way you look at it, you have to look at it from one side. And I think as landlords, we kind of have to get used to the public idea on what landlords are, and that is generally that we're all greedy, money grabbing people that are all we're in for is the money, and we want to take as much as we can from tenants. And it's kind of one of them things you have to get used to, I think, and just deal with the fact that people have had a bad time with a lot of rogue landlords, because that's the problem, is there are a lot of rogue landlords out there and they give us good landlords a bad name.
Yeah, they certainly do. And I mean, something you just said there about some people's opinion of landlords. We've had a marketing campaign in Brighton, actually, in this city, since 2018, because we're looking for more properties always from landlords that we can rent, and then we turn them into service accommodation.
Yeah.
And sometimes we do JVs with them. Sometimes we just lease it and just give them more than they would get anyway from a local agent or their tenant, with no risk and no evictions, you can imagine. And then sometimes we partner with them. We don't really manage or anything like that. They're for us, or we JV with the owner. And we've had this campaign since 2018. Run it again in 2019 in something like April, May, November, December. Then turned it on again about 5 days ago. Now, because we've been doing service accommodation for a while, we know all the numbers on 1 beds to 5 beds in these cities on the South Coast. So we know in certain postcodes, this is the local market rent, and this is what we've been getting for the last 4 years from our data. And most of the time, well, on average across that portfolio, we're 199% above. Now, that's not that hard to get from service accommodation, because every 1,000 is worth 3,000, for example.
Yeah.
So that's not that hard to get. Obviously, there's costs and booking.com fees and cleaners costs and things like that. So they still might make
horrendous amount of costs.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, they still come out. But the figure we get, which we use for the marketing, is your property for 1,000. We've now generated gross profit of 3,000 for the last X amount of months in these postcodes. So we just rerun that advert, and we got a lady who was like, "You're just landlords ripping off the NHS." From nowhere, she just put that with the time we're in right now, which is the coronavirus, and said, "You're only making that money because you're overcharging the NHS." And this lady, she's definitely got some problems. She posted our advert, which was a sponsored post, on a renters union site in Bristol, right? Which is like left wing against landlords. And then all of those people would like, and she added with it, they're ripping off the NHS. Doesn't mention the NHS anyway, anywhere at all. Anyway, so all of these people started to comment on the sponsored post, which was targeted at landlords, investors, high net worth individuals, business owners. But somebody saw it somewhere. The algorithm went mad. We had 41,000 views just in a small city in 72 hours. We had over 600 comments. Lots of them were negative, about 100. We had to get rid of them. And it's now made the news. The newspaper
Wow.
contacted us yesterday for a story that they're going to run tomorrow, saying we've had these people contact us. They're saying it's terrible timing that you're renting these properties for twice and three times the amount of NHS. And we was like, hold on a minute. Have you looked back on the same page where the advert is from 2019, 2018, before the coronavirus even started? So it's completely unrelated. Anyway, so the newspaper's going to be running the story. It's probably going to be negative, but it doesn't mention NHS anywhere because their opinion is landlords ripping tenants off, charging too much. And yeah, so we had to give them a comment. The newspaper called us yesterday saying, would like to share your side of the story because they're going to run it in the paper this week.
All publicity is good publicity, mate.
Well, I know, and it turned out we got one death threat as well.
Oh wow, that is really extreme.
It's shocking. They posted it on their Facebook with the advert as a death threat. So other landlords, we had dozens of landlords contact us from the ad saying, "I've seen the advert. Yeah, it's a very good business model. I'm interested. Can you call me, etc." And just so you know, multiple landlords said, "We've seen it on this website, in this renters union website. This lady has written this thing like a proper death threat." Shocking.
Wow. Yeah, so some that's the thing. Some people have had a bad experience or something's gone wrong, and I mean, even on TikTok, the amount of assumptions that are made immediately. I mean, just today I posted. Obviously, you saw it, the one about me buying the property in Hastings, and in that video, I say that I lost over £100,000, and one of the comments was, "Well, we're not all born with a silver spoon in our mouth," and I was like, what are you talking about? Number one, I said that I borrowed investor funds, and number two, I've just told you I lost a load of money. How can then you be calling me saying I've had a silver spoon in my mouth? It's so strange the way that people think, and that's what I realised. I mean, I don't know if you saw the other post I did, which was essentially calling out teenagers for. I mean, I did one about the way to get into property as a teenager is to use rent to rent. You need $3,000 to $4,000 to start. And I had a load of messages, people saying, well, yeah, good luck getting $4,000 at 16. And I did another post then, just being like, if you're making excuses saying you can't make money at 16 years old, you can't get $4,000 at 16. You can get a job at Sainsbury's, Tesco's. You can go and wash cars. I used to mow lawns, people's front lawns for like $5 a lawn. I used to get loads done.
And they can go out, no rent to pay. They can quick.
That's it. And they're like sat at home playing their Xbox all night. And again, this is being general, by the way, because that was the big thing that I got. 50% of people were like, I've got to pay the bills and this, that, and the other. And they had genuine reasons. I'm like, well, this isn't for you then. Don't take this information if it's not applicable. But the other people there was a few people that were like, wow, I actually needed this, like this telling off, essentially being like, you've got so much potential and you should be using it. And that's the same thing. It's like you can take information however which way you want. And a lot of people have been mollycoddled into when they see stuff like I've said, sort yourself out, go and earn $4,000 if that's what you want to do. If you want to be a property investor, then go and learn how to be a property investor. Go and put yourself out there. Don't sit there and expect stuff to come to you. And if you're accepting of like where you are and that actually, do you know what? I have been lazy. I haven't had to go to school. for the last 6 weeks or however long it's been. God knows, it's been more than 6 weeks now, isn't it? But you know, and they're like, oh well, I can't do anything then. I obviously can't make money. It's like, you've got the internet. You've got more chance now of making money than I ever had when I was 16. You know, go and buy and sell stuff. Like, even go through your loft and your garage and sell stuff. Tart up some old furniture. You know, all these different ways in which you can do it. I know I've gone off piste a little bit here, but yeah, it's just that point of whatever you want to see in something, you can. If that makes sense.
Oh, yeah, no. Looking for the negatives.
Well, it's looking for excuses. It's like, well, no, I couldn't possibly do that because of X, Y, Z. It's like, well, they've done it. Someone else has done it. Most of the most successful people in the world have come from the worst upbringings, and that's what's got them there. It's the fight or flight mode.
Yeah.
I've been lucky in my life in terms of not having that sob story or anything bad really happen to me. I've had a pretty normal, decent life. But I think, you know, with that being said, I think it would have been very easy for me to just go and get a 9 to 5 and sit around and, you know, not do anything extraordinary, because my life would have been absolutely fine without it. But for some reason, I'd always just had this desire for more, and I don't know where it's come from. And I feel quite lucky in a sense that I haven't kind of just gone down that route of just acceptance of normal and okay and average. You know, I've always wanted more. So it's a bit of a strange one. I find it quite difficult talking about people with bad upbringings because I just don't know what that's like. But you know, there's plenty of examples of people that have come through and done the biggest things from bad. But yeah, I suppose that's my story in one. It's like I've not done anything sort of in terms of my life leading up to it. There's no catalyst that has made me think like this and think big and want to make risks and all that stuff. It's just inert in me. It's just something that I've always had.
Yeah, that's good. It's part of your DNA. Yeah, that's good.
I think most entrepreneurs kind of do have that, don't they? It's like everywhere I look, there's like opportunity. That's all I ever see is like, oh, you could do this. My wife gets so annoyed. I've got 20 business ideas every day. I'm like, oh, you know what product you can make? You could do this, and that would solve that problem, wouldn't it? And it's like, it's just this constant, your head's just spinning all the time.
Yeah, that's just brilliant. And have you got a business partner?
I've got multiple. Yeah, I'm a huge, especially since the mistake early on. I realized that, you know, you've got to be leveraging other people's time and knowledge, especially. So yeah, we've got multiple. I've got my rent to rent and sort of low money down strategy training company. I've got that with some guys. They have their own business called Systems for Outsourcing. So they specialize in outsourcing small to medium businesses and using virtual assistants and all that kind of stuff. So we've merged to create systems for rent to rent. So it's basically how to get rent to rent and then how to outsource all the shit you don't want to do. So that's one JV. We're going into another joint venture, which is going to be about branding, personal branding.
Yeah.
So I think I mentioned to you, we're actually starting our own podcast, which will be released on the 18th of May.
Yeah.
Currently my 30th birthday. So I'll be excited and upset all at the same time. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to that because it's personal branding's been huge for me. I've been in business for like 6 years in property and stuff, but it wasn't until I started focusing on the personal brand and getting myself out there, you realize you just get flooded. I'm sure you've seen it with this podcast and stuff, that you just get flooded with people going, how did you do this? Can I do this? Can you help me? And it's just like, when you need money for an investment, for instance, you've just got this huge list of people that are like, absolutely, because they know you now, because they've been watching you for a year or however long. So yeah, the podcast is basically all about personal branding and using that for anything from business to property and all that sort of stuff. So that's another thing we've done. And
18th of May, that's live.
Yeah, 18th of May. Yeah, remember that. Jack Wicks' 30th birthday. So I'm supposed to be a millionaire by now. That's what I told everyone from the age of 24. Well, probably younger actually. But yeah, it's that's a big thing I've been telling the sort of kids on TikTok as well. Is just there's no need to rush. If I'd have kept doing the little four flat blocks that I was doing in Hastings, if I'd have just kept that model that I succeeded with at the start and just done another and another and another, I'd have had tons of them by now. Yeah. But I didn't. I went bang, more with no knowledge, no experience. So yeah, that's what I do now. Every new business I start, the first thing I think of is who do I know that has got experience in this? It's the kind of Richard Branson model, I suppose. He didn't know about gyms. He didn't know how to run a gym. what he did know was there was parts of the gyms that he'd been to that he didn't like. So he leveraged his own brand and his personal brand, and then found a gym company that was struggling in terms of revenue, and then combined it. I think. Have you read his books?
I haven't, no.
Oh mate, you got to read them. They're unbelievable. I won't fly with anyone else as long as they survive, obviously. But I think he got the idea for Virgin Active, and they were out advertising 3 months later.
Oh, really?
3 months it took them, to get going on that business. And
Oh.
that for me as well. Again, I'm all about like pace, and I'm really my sort of attention span so short. I'm all about pace. So the idea that you could go, okay, well, they've got the infrastructure, they've got the buildings, they've got most of the gym stuff. They need a new brand and maybe some new equipment. And I think the big thing he did was change the changing rooms and made them more spacious and a bit more appealing. And then, all it takes is a bit of investment. All they needed a little revamp and a bit of a rebrand, and bash, 3 months later, he's got a gym chain. And it's those little things. It's just amazing. But I know I'm going off topic here a little bit.
No, that's fine. It's always exciting to talk about this. Entrepreneurs, other business people, just their stories and what makes them tick, and other people's stories as well.
I love it all.
Yeah. So what you looking at now? Because you've got a few different things going on. What is your core business you're looking at now then, or looking to build?
Yeah. So I suppose I mean, all this coronavirus stuff has kind of made me think that actually having a core business, and I know you should always have a particular focus, but in my head, my vision is to have 10, 20 smaller, medium-sized companies rather than one or two big ones. So I think if you have a huge business which is doing amazing, and then something like this affects you, that whole business just collapses and you've got nothing else.
Yeah.
Whereas if you've got 10, 15, 20 of these little medium companies making any, $5,000 to 20, 30 grand a month, all these little sort of businesses that are really easy to manage. You can always spot what's going wrong, and you've not got too many staff where you're losing that connection. And then if one of them gets affected, you can reallocate those staff to the ones that, because I can guarantee you, and you've seen it, with coronavirus, there's companies that have gone bang straight up with the others that are going down the other way. So if you're sort of sporadic enough in your business activity, you can easily have a business that's going to go shooting through, and you can go, right, you 10 staff here that are doing all this, you're going in this company, we're pivoting, and we're going to pause that company for now until this sorts itself out. Yeah. And I love that idea. You could even have, you could still have everyone under one roof, one big office, and just have the different separate companies. So, off the podcast, we're looking to create a personal branding membership site, essentially, where we're going to give like everything you need to build a personal brand. It could be how to release a podcast, Facebook, Instagram help, LinkedIn, TikTok, public speaking, like all this sort of stuff. And we're going to put that in at a really low, like 50 quid a month kind of membership price, so that people who want to build their personal brand for whatever reason can do so on a really low level. So that's something that's in the pipeline at the minute, and we're working on that. We've got the rent-to-rent coaching, which will soon become low money down, so the sort of all creative strategy stuff. So that's another one.
We've got a package for that already. That training is already up and running.
Yeah. So we've got systems for rent-to-rent, which is an online course, and then we've got a coaching program as well. And we've actually released very recently something I don't think's out there at all in the coaching world, which is a guaranteed income. So we guarantee in 12 months you'll be earning $5,000 a month, or you get every penny back of your training. So it's something because I was having a lot of people that were going, okay, well, your trainings, we charge $395 for coaching a month. And people were going, all right, that's all good, but what if I don't earn any money? I don't get any deals. And it's like, well, 90% of that's up to you, really. So I thought, how can I get around that and make it a no-brainer for someone? So then I thought, well, do you know what? I'm going to create a list of things that I require you to do over this 12-month period. And I can guarantee that will get you the money, and literally put my money where my mouth is. So yeah, the price is higher. So we charge $745 a month for this course. Yeah. But I mean, the results that people are getting we've got one guy who's on 3 weeks so far, and we're just about to negotiate a lease option on a £1 million block of flats in Blackpool that he's got direct to vendor for. And that's like, he's got like 6 rent to rents in the pipeline. And I'm like, this is easy, mate. Like in 6 months, you're going to hit this target.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's quite a cool one. We obviously have to be selective with that. So we're only taking on 5 in total. So there's only 3 spaces, and we do like an interview beforehand and stuff, just because obviously these people are then representative of me and my training essentially. So I need to make sure that we're going to work together and stuff like that. So yeah, that's something that we've got going.
I haven't heard of that. I've heard of it before with like, we'll build you £1 million portfolio kind of thing, like Inside Track years ago. Nothing with rents. I think that's a really good thing, to be selective, guarantee that they're going to get everything from you for enough for them to then reach 5,000 a month within 12 months. And that's
we just want it to be a little bit different, because there's so many choices now, and there's so many of them can talk a good game and sell hard. I mean, I'm the opposite to a salesman. It is what it is. You're either interested or you're not. I can tell you now that it's going to be the best training you'll get, and I don't have a problem in telling you that, because I wouldn't do it otherwise. We're a small group, and that's what gets the results, and it's proven. I've done it, and we continue to do it now. So it's not like these big companies that charge you, 10 grand up front, and we've done all that training, and there are benefits to it as well. But I think I always like the smaller, more intimate. And every week we do a coaching call, and it's just like meeting up with friends. We have a little coaching call on Zoom, talk about what everyone's been up to, how you've been getting on, have you nailed that deal yet? And then everyone's asking each other questions and helping each other, and it's wicked.
So that's like group coaching.
Yeah. So what we do is everyone gets 15 minutes direct with me going back, what have you been doing? What are you struggling with? What can I help with? But everybody else is kind of learning from that discussion as well. And then we use Asana, the project management tool. We use that for the coaching as well. So anyone can ask any question at any time, and I just get pinged on my phone. Normally reply with like a video or whatever. And then obviously when we're allowed out, we do quarterly meetups as well. So you actually get that personal interaction too.
Yeah, that's brilliant. That makes all the difference as well.
Yeah, it's the community aspect. And that's because I worked in pubs up until I got into property, weirdly. And I'm just super social. So to go from pubs and working with like your mates, and sort of you've got that hustle and bustle, and I've played sport like football and stuff. So you're used to that kind of lads kind of thing. And to go from that to sitting in an office trying to ring agents and stuff, it's such a culture shock for me. So that's why I ended up spending a lot of money on coaching and things like that, because you became part of a new group and you had people to bounce off of and call and go and work together and things like that. So that's what I'm big on, and I really want to create. And that's the same with the brand you stuff, the personal branding thing that we're going to do. Is really make a community out of it, so that everybody feels like they're part of something.
Yeah, that's different. That really does work. Gives them the accountability, the confidence, the momentum, basically everything that's missing from old school.
And it sounds a bit deep, but it's the feeling of like, of like, I don't know, but feeling like you fit in somewhere as well. Like as entrepreneurs, we're like, it's so easy to go down the pub with your mates and go, "Oh, boys, I've got this really good idea," and they're like, "Shut up, you idiot! What are you talking about? You can't do that. You can't subletting. You can't do that." And you get it all the time. And half of it is that a lot of it as well is that they don't want to listen, because 1, they don't understand, and 2, they're a bit like, "What do you mean you're doing all this stuff and I'm just in a 9-to-5 job?" They almost want to ignore the fact that there's another option and that they've taken the right option.
Yeah.
So I think it's really difficult when you get super excited about something and you go and tell people and you get no reaction, and it can really affect you. And I think being a part of a group of people, like whenever I leave those like networking meetings or the meetups that we do, you kind of like, you're almost skipping out, like, get me to my laptop. What can I be pushing on with now? I've got this like light bulbs just on in your head.
New ideas from that mastermind. Yeah.
Yeah. And it keeps you going for a couple of weeks, and then eventually you get chipped away at, and you need that constant pick up again and know that other people are in the same boat and stuff. So yeah, it's an unfortunate thing that has to be the case, but yeah, it's cool as well, because I find the people I meet who are in entrepreneurship or property, you get on so well, so like almost immediately, because you've got that, you've kind of got the same attributes and stuff,
Yeah.
and you've gone through the same problems, and you're so it's really easy to get on with people. And I've made lifelong friends through property and business. So
Yeah, that's brilliant. That's ideal. That's what it's all about. So, what would you say you're telling your students right now to do with, say, the rent to rent side? Because of obviously everything that's happened and happening, are you telling them to look for different deals? Are you telling them to look for bigger margins, or?
no, so direct to vendor, massive sort of onus on sending them letters out. So a lot of what we're doing is changing the letters around a little bit. So we're offering not just guaranteed rent, but we're going to offer a management service as well. So we will help you get your property up to HMO standard, rent it, and then take a percentage. So if you don't want us to do it for you and you think that's a bit weird, well, we'll just manage it for you as well. So we're giving them two options. And the good part about that is when we offer, it's like, well, we're going to offer you slightly less than your market and we'll guarantee it and you have no worries. Or we can offer you this amount and we're going to take 15% of it. So it's going to be higher, but you're going to deal with the maintenance. You're going to deal with the conversion, the furniture and everything that comes along with it. I think that's a really cool tip. And it just gives people a little bit of an idea as to why is the guaranteed less and why is it so good. And you put it to each other and they kind of go, shit, yeah, I'd have to put 10 grand in this. And you're telling me you're going to do that. And then they're like, okay, cool. There's a lot of value in this. So that's a good one. And what we've done in our letters is I've made sure I've bolded in the letter so it's very easy to see the main points. So it's like, we are landlords ourselves. We know what it's like. We have 18 properties in the local area. We have done this for 4 years. We're not just like flash in the pan. We're going to be around and we're going to do the job properly, and kind of making sure the letters really speak that by just opening it. They can see that straight away. But yeah, the area dependent. It all depends. You know, that one of the guys who's on our guaranteed income program, he's like I said, he's based in Bolton and does sort of Bolton and the north. So lease options are just rife at the moment. Right now, he's finding a lot more joy with lease options than he is with rent to rents. And I'm like, well, fucking take the lease options all day long, mate, because you know, they're always the preferred option. It's just in the south, it's a lot harder to do that because they know that in 5-10 years time that the value of the property is going to have gone up. So there's other creative strategies to use with the south, I think. But yeah, definitely. I think direct to vendor in any area right now, just to give people options. What options do they have? Because letting agents and estate agents are going to give them one. We'll either rent it or we'll attempt to rent it for you, or we'll attempt to sell it for you. That's the only options they have. Whereas we can go to them and go, right, bang, here are your options. We can sign this up tomorrow if you're ready. You've got a lease option. You've got an assisted sale. We can do a vendor finance deal where you get your money a bit, or you get the rest of the money later. It's like all these different options that suit them potentially that they can actually physically take right now, rather than let me have a go and selling it. Let me see if I can do this. We're giving them actual decisions to make. So yeah, I think now it's, you know, like you can tell I'm fairly passionate about this sort of stuff with my ramblings, but I just, yeah, even in the more expensive areas, there's just tons of probate property where the family think they're going to get all this money come through and they're waiting there going, shit, no one's buying anything anymore. And we're like, okay, well, here's an option for you. Why don't we do this? Why don't we JV with you and we'll put a roof extension on the top and then we'll sell it together and split the profits. Things like that. They're just like, okay, we did not know this existed. And there's just so much money to be made. I'm kind of looking around at the properties that have gone up, or not the properties, the land that's gone up with planning permission.
Yeah.
And they're not being able to sell it. They thought they were going to get a planning uplift and get rid of it to a developer yesterday. And now all of a sudden developers have stopped. So I'm looking at those sorts of deals going, okay, well, what about an assisted sale? Why don't we take it on? We'll use a modular build, for instance. So I'm big into looking at sort of sit panel construction, modular stuff that can, you know, you can knock up a block of 6 flats in 3 months. And you know your figures down to a penny, and saying to them, look, we know these guys, you've got no mortgage on this property and the value's at this much. We'll just get a development finance as a JV. We'll get it built in a factory and brought over on a crane, chuck it in, we'll sell it, and we'll profit split. Those sorts of deals just seem like no-brainers right now.
Yeah, you can do a lot of those right now, especially in this climate. Yeah. Have all the toolboxes: assisted sale, guaranteed rent, lease option, delayed completions, you know, flipping, JV with the land.
Yeah.
There's so many options. So now you've obviously got that massive toolbox. It's just finding out what they need, and then well, this sounds like what you want.
Yeah. Well, that's it. It's trying to figure out. It's fact finding. Half of it's fact finding. What is it you need? Why do you need to sell? What's it for? What are you doing? And you know, sometimes you can be really specific about it and be like, all right, well, I'll buy you your jet ski.
Yeah.
And then we'll sort out the rest later. Let us get that sorted if that's what you want. And what was it? One of my mentors once called it "fuck off money." Right? How much? What do you need to leave me to it? So it might be a house in Spain. It might be, you know, a holiday. It might be something. It's like, there you go, fuck off. Let me crack on, and then we'll give you the rest of your money after.
Yeah, definitely those things work. And how are you finding most of these people? Gumtree, Spectre? Do you use Spectre?
No,
No?
no. Haven't used that.
Okay, that's just when you said direct to vendor, the letters.
Yeah.
There's a company which tracks through the land registry every single property for sale and to rent,
Okay.
every postcode in the UK.
Yeah.
And then what it does is any move in the market, the second something's listed for sale or to rent, the second the price is reduced, any change at all on that property, it's called Spectre. You can sign up for it and choose by postcode. So you can choose any postcode you want. You pay for it. I think they're doing deals all the time. You buy 10 postcodes, you get it for less, but it's still only about, I don't know.
So there was something similar called Property B.
Yeah, Property B, that's been around for a while. That's something similar.
And then that's gone. They don't do that anymore. So I've been looking for something similar because Property B was like a Chrome extension where you'd click on the property and it would pop down the previously sold and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, I'm definitely going to get on that. That's a wicked tip.
Spectre's the one, and what it does is you sign up. They keep all the confidential information, and then you just give them the letter template. So, for example, as soon as any property is listed for rent, they would send out your letter number 1, which goes out to every new listing. They'll say,
Okay.
come on the market for rent. Well, have you? And when it's been on for say 2 weeks, you've been on the market for 2 weeks, and then when they've reduced the price, we know you reduced the price yesterday. That's what it does. It's really cool.
That's amazing because we use something called Stamp.
Okay.
STANNP to send letters. So Stamp will basically, you can upload a Excel spreadsheet of your HMO list. You upload that with, like you said, a letter template, and then you can ping the letter to 100 and however many HMO landlords, and it will automatically do that cheaper than a first-class stamp will cost.
Yeah.
So we do that, but obviously that's only half of what this Spectre does. So that's an absolutely awesome tip.
Yeah, Spectre's really cool, and you know exactly what's happened. You've just reduced it, you've just put it on, you've just changed agents, all of that stuff's in there. So you tell them what letter to send. Really good.
Every day's a school day.
It certainly is. Have you got people calling on Gumtree as well? Do you do that?
Yeah, we do that. A really good tip actually for rent to rent specifically is on Zoopla. If you type in your area and all that sort of stuff, scroll right down to the bottom of the page. There's like a little message thing. So you can put your name in, put a brief message, and we'll put like, we're looking for a 4+ bedroom property in this area, etc., etc. And every single letting agent is within that area is listed, and you tick all and press that send message, and it will send a message out to every letting agent within that criteria that you've given. And you know, that's something I tell my clients all the time. Do that first, especially if you're scared of phone calls, because because it can be like, I hate it even now. I'm just like, I know I'm going to get this idiot at the end of a phone who's going to fight me on it. So when you're sat there and you've got this big list of people to call, you're like, oh no, pranging a little bit. Whereas if you do this, you get called and you have to answer. There's no way out. And it's always a nicer call because they've called you.
Yeah.
So they've made the contact, not you cold calling them. So I always find it's a bit of a nicer way to get into people. So that's another cool tip that I always tell people to do.
And what you finding from your students, if they're brand new and it's their first deal, when the agent calls them, and then they say, well, hold on a minute, if you're going to rent this HMO, what about personal guarantees, or you've only just started? What do you guys do for that?
Well, number one, I say, is that you to lump onto my experience, because I'm working with them. We're essentially a JV right now. You know, I'm their advisor, so that I always get them to lump off of my experience. But the biggest tip talking to agents is just don't say too much. I used to do it when I started. I would tell them my whole life, as you can imagine, my whole life story had come out. And then, if this happens, we'll just do this and blah, blah, blah. And the amount of times they were like, okay, I'm interested. Oh, wow, now I'm not, because you just said this other thing you didn't need to say. So I always say, when you're on the phone, tell them what you do in a very brief manner, and then just answer questions, satisfy the question, and don't say any more than you need to. So who is this for? Oh, it's for our clients, our corporate clients. Stop. You don't need to go, yeah, basically their names are, and they work for this company, but they might not be. They might be someone else, and they might work in this company, because all of a sudden you're just overloading. And if you just answer quick, brief, because they're going to ask more questions if you haven't satisfied the question.
Yeah.
So again, yeah, another tip for and schmooze them. Go on, if you know who you're rough, if you know the letting manager, for instance, Facebook them or LinkedIn them and find out what they like outside of being a letting agent. So I always, normally there's like football or golf or something along those lines. So I'll love on the phone. I'm just like, oh yeah, well, I'm looking forward to Saturday because Arsenal are playing, but they're absolutely useless at the minute. And I've looked on his LinkedIn and he's a Chelsea fan. He's like, oh yeah, well basically, then all of a sudden you've got this instant rapport and they want to work with you because you've just talked about football for 2 minutes. So yeah, it's about being relatable and kind of building rapport as well.
Yeah, no, that's ideal. That's brilliant. So you've got lots of things going on then, joint ventures.
Yeah,
Is this all under the umbrella of the Wicks?
Yeah, so basically, me and my older brother are joint venture partners in everything. So whatever I do, he's sort of there or thereabouts. But yeah, I've kind of branched off into business, kind of relating to property still. Everything's kind of property still my passion, and it's something I know a lot about. So it's silly to go off into other stuff. But yeah, I just kind of, what I was always told was niche into something and laser focus on one thing, which is what I did with Rent to Rent, and it worked. But actually, when you build a personal brand and people know who you are within a certain sector, you don't have to, I don't think, in my opinion, because you know so much now, like from learning and mistakes and all the rest of it. I know so much that is applicable to loads of different businesses. So actually, if I go and joint venture, and this is another reason why I like joint ventures, because I can work with someone. So for instance, our brand new stuff, the guy that we've joint ventured with, he can do all of the he's creating all the courses essentially. So I'm sat here waiting, being like, all I'm going to do is talk about the brand new and get people on board. So they're using me as the key person of influence, which I love. I'm more than happy to be posting social media, telling people what I'm up to. And there's no, again, going back to like Richard Branson and people like that, is like they've got literally hundreds of businesses, but all they are is the front facing part of it, and then they get to do the exciting bit at the start, and that's the bit I love, which is product creation, service creation. Like, how can we market this? How can we make this the most valuable for our customers? Like, how can we build a community around it? All these sorts of things. Once that's all kind of set up and running, I get a little bit bored.
Yeah,
and it's the same with the serviced accommodation, and that's why I failed, because I loved to get in the deal. I loved the idea of going, oh my God, we can do this, that, and the other, and we can put this furniture in there. And then once that was done, I was like, oh, I don't want to go and deal with cleaners who haven't turned up. I don't want to go and refill the soap, like all that kind of stuff. I'm just like, it doesn't interest me anymore. So, yeah, I think a lot of it is understanding your strengths as well, and kind of, I've just realised I'm not that good at much really. I think I'm fairly likable, and I'm good with people. And that's half of it, really, to be honest. I mean, I'm quite good. Once I'm passionate about something, I absorb information really, really quickly. And my mind's quite good at filtering out stuff I'm not good at. I kind of just don't understand it, so I'm like, I must not be good at that. But yeah, I think generally just kind of connections, really. I suppose, the guy I'm doing brand new with, Chris Taylor. We've known each other for about 1.5 years. I've then brought on my other JV partners who are coming in with it. And I'm kind of at the minute just kind of sitting there going, well, all I'm going to be doing is advertising this on social media and just having a bit of a say in stuff. But they're kind of doing all the run around and the bits in the background that I don't like doing and I'm not good at ultimately. So, yeah, I'm kind of loving it at the minute, just having time to think of new ideas. And yeah, I mean, the brand new really excites me because property's obviously really good. You've got the capital growth side of it as well. And stuff like that. But what annoys me is that you're limited to the UK. So that's something that's kind of always grated on me that it's like, especially with rent to rent, it's like, okay, well, my customers are UK based, and then they're property people, and then they're this tiny part of property people where I can teach people rent to rent. And don't get me wrong, you still build a very profitable business in that, but I like the idea that personal branding is personal branding, social media is social media. A client could be in Africa, America, anywhere in the world, and the information is going to be applicable to them. So that's why I like that business. That's why I'm sort of throwing myself into that part quite a lot as well.
Make sure you've subscribed, because tomorrow you'll get nothing but the truth on Tuesdays. Every Tuesday, you'll get nothing but the truth. This offensive and explicit episode covers current issues, trending topics, and more that will punch you in the face with the truth. If you can't handle that, don't listen, because Ryan does not hold back. And if you're up to no good, we're watching.
Yeah, so the question I was just asking is, this brand you, is that the same as the podcast, or is that separate to the podcast? Because that is on the 18th of May, isn't it? It goes live.
Yeah, so the brand you podcast is coming out on the 18th of May, but then we basically created a product off the back of it, and it was never the intention actually, but we kind of thought that there's so many ways in which you can build a personal brand, and actually if you ended up doing 1,000, 2,000 quid on a Facebook course, a Facebook ads course, another $2,000. Actually, I want to learn LinkedIn. I need to learn how to public speak. I want to run a podcast. All these different things. You'd be absolutely skint, and there'd be no point in doing it. So we thought, actually, if we can use the knowledge that we've got in the sort of bits that we know of, and then leverage our friends who are experts in their field at those things, it could be YouTube or anything, and get them to run a little course on each one, and then put it into a membership site essentially, and we charge a low level fee. So we're initially thinking, 50 quid a month, something like that. And you not only get access to all of these courses, but actually you become part of the brand university, which is what we've called it, the brand university community, where you can all kind of chip in and help each other and be like, actually, because the other thing is you might be in health and fitness, and you're trying to start a YouTube channel. And someone might have a property YouTube channel doing really well. Well, them talking to each other isn't going to be too helpful. Whereas if someone's got a YouTube channel that's successful in health and fitness, that person who's just starting out can be like, actually, can I speak to you about this? Can I just ask you this question? And yeah, just to build that kind of something that's not going to skimp people out, because I think a lot of these courses, the prices are just getting higher and higher and higher. And it just and you need so many of them, and people are always talking about niching, and it's like the more you niche, the more money I'm going to have to spend on bloody learning how to do these things. So that's kind of the idea, really. We want to just give like the most amount of value, so people are literally like, it's a no-brainer. We want people to literally see what we're offering and just be like, this isn't like, we don't want to have to sell this to you at all. We want to just go, look, this is what you're getting. Here's the results on our current members. And just kind of the idea of running a business like that. And like I say, I like hanging around with people. So the idea that we can build like a huge community where we can have meetups, and if we're randomly in London for dinner or something, we'll just put it on the community who wants to come down for a drink, or make it really immersive and helpful community for people to build their personal brands. Which, like I said, the more I do, the more I realize it's so important. And we're learning as well. I've done all right on Instagram, got like 12,000 followers, which is cool. I'm working on TikTok. Facebook is more in the sort of property groups and that kind of sector. But then Chris, who's the business partner on it, he's got like 38,000 followers or something on Instagram. He's kind of Mr. Instagram, but he's also got the Facebook ads and all that kind of stuff. So, and we've just realized between us both the difference, 18 months has made in terms of being social. And more than anything, it's kind of like, it's not just saying, come and look at us, look at everything we're doing, look how good we are at stuff. It's going, actually, I've lost loads of money on that deal. And it's also going, do you know what? I'm sitting and watching Netflix all day, and I might get up at midday because I just don't feel like doing anything at the minute. And that's what people relate to. They don't relate to people that are constantly work, because it's just not real. It's not possible. So, and that's where we've got most of our connections from. It's just just being real, and we're in lockdown, so my hair's not perfect today. I'm going to have to get off this call and go and look after my son. It's not like I'm sort of retiring to my my heated swimming pool that's outside, and my waiter's going to bring me my food. You know what I mean? It's like being successful is it's kind of in the eye of the beholder, I believe, isn't it? It's like the idea of being a success is so different for everybody. So if you try and pretend to be successful because that's what you think someone's idea of success is, you're going to trip yourself up, and it's disingenuous, and people are going to eventually see through it. And I think in terms of a business decision, a personal brand is so important because that's kind of an insurance policy for your customer, because they know that if you don't deliver what you say you're going to, and you aren't who you say you are, all it takes is for you to fuck it up once, and then you've been exposed, and then your entire personal brand has been ruined. Look at Samuel Leeds, for instance. Although he's hanging around somehow, and I don't know how, but yeah, it's kind of that thing. It's like if I'm lying to you, it's gonna come out eventually, and then my whole business and everything's just gonna fall by the wayside. So I think it's good on both sides.
Yeah, and all these journalists and these investigators now, like from that Samuel Leeds thing, they can go as deep as they want to go. And someone who's got some money can just say they're not happy with this guy. Here's $5,000. Just find out the truth. Is he telling the truth or not? And then that one little lie, like the Alan Sugar thing, and then it turns out that the whole thing unravels. So if he's lied about that, where he spent £3 million, what else is he lying about? And it all just starts falling and crumbling, doesn't it? I mean, I've seen so many people come and go in the property training side from years ago. I got into it in the year 2000, and I followed a guy called Parmdeep Vadesha, which is not even around now, but this is years ago, and he brought out this one little thing, which is a mini course, where he was just buying properties below market value, refinancing them, getting the money out from Birmingham. And he brought out this little mini series, just like 7 parts over 7 days, and that's what initially I found him on, and it just showed me day one, this is how to find below market value properties. Then the next day, at the same time, you got another email from an autoresponder, but back then you'd think it's him writing it right then. This is probably, I don't know, 2002, something like that. Then over the 7 days, you've built the relationship, and then you just sold on whatever he had after that. And he wasn't really selling training. He had one thing for £97, an online study thing, but he was in the trenches doing the deals. And I was on his podcasting years ago, a long time ago, or I don't even think it was called a podcast, and it was something else, some interview he did on the radio thing a long time ago. And there's been so many people come selling courses and then just completely disappear because they're not actually doing the deals. They've maybe tried, but they would rather just sell the how-to instead of actually doing it. And then one thing, and it all unravels, and they just disappear.
Exactly. Yeah, well, that's why, and again, we've decided to kind of do this thing as well, because we're like, well, we don't know how to create a YouTube channel successfully because we haven't, and therefore, what we're going to do is get someone we know who has done it and get them to do this for us and for our community, so that like we're not just going, okay, well, I've watched someone else's course and now we're going to regurgitate it because it's pointless. So the idea, again, the reason it was brought out was we thought, well, let's start a podcast. Let's make it. Let's do a hell of a launch. Get to the top of the business charts is the plan. And then we can plausibly explain how we created a podcast and got it to the top of the charts. And then we can, because that's personal branding in itself. You know, I bet you've got lots of business and lots of inquiries through your business running a podcast.
Yeah.
And the same with public speaking. I only started public speaking for probably a year, 18 months, something like that. And it's amazing what standing up on stage or standing in front of a group of people and talking about something with confidence can do for you, because the minute you stand up there, people are like, he knows what he's talking about. It's all of a sudden you're an authority to them. And obviously then you need to connect with them by using your personality. And yeah, I mean, I struggled with it a little bit trying to, I'm quite sweary naturally. And I just like to have fun with everything. So, but I always felt like people were kind of forcing me to not do that. You know, property's serious, business is serious, money's serious, everything has to be serious, and you can't swear just in case, you know, this, that, and the other. And it's the more I've kind of got used to speaking, the more I'm like, yeah, you don't want to over swear and you don't want to use certain words and stuff, but actually, it would be unnatural for me not to use them in certain sentences. And it sounds strange to say, but it's just how I speak. And if I were to use another word, it would just sound odd and it wouldn't sound genuine. And I'm passionate, and for me to like try and be thinking in my head, well, I shouldn't use that word and use another one, then it kills the passion and you end up being a robot. So and yeah, the fun element as well for me is just massive. I'd much rather enjoy my life and the process of building a business than the 5 a.m. clubs and the work 24 hours a day in the office and grind hard for a year so that to, what's the quote? Grind hard, do something for a year that people won't, to have a life that people can't, or some shit like that. I don't know. But it's like I'd much rather take quadruple the amount of time and actually go on holidays and, get pissed with my mates at a barbecue if I want to, and not like focus on learning all the time, because otherwise you just lose such a huge amount of your life, and it's just such a waste. So I like I said, there's a huge balance for me in terms of business and family, and I've got a wife and a little 1-year-old, so there are more important things in life. Obviously, I want to create a life where we can go on holidays and we can have a big house and all that stuff that I've promised. And it will happen. It will just take a little longer while we go on holidays. My son in his first year of life, I think he went on 6 holidays last year. We went to Australia for the first time. We went to Spain a couple of times. So yeah, and I could have reinvested that money and earned a bit more, but actually, like, we're never going to get them memories by reinvesting cash every time. So yeah, it's a bit of a balance for me.
Yeah, that's the idea. What you just said, it gives me goosebumps as well. Some of that, because I've done both. Obviously, getting started around the millennium and having children early, all at the same time, having children and buying my first property and setting up a property company back then. Missed out on quite a lot by building something and building a team and having a big company and 12 staff back then before the 2008 crash, and then the crash, and then you lose lots, and then you've got to sort of rebuild again, and then you look back and think, well, hold on a minute, I lost all of that time, all of those moments with the children by putting everything into this, building something big. Obviously, the market changed, so you had to restructure everything and lost a lot, and you never get the other stuff back. So sort of like this time round, it's been more of the balance, like you've said, instead of doing all in for the work now for 5 years, and then the next 15 years will be much better, but you've lost the 5. It's now a balance of the whole thing, the children, the family, just doing everything that's important, seeing the family and going out with your friends and just doing everything as a balance instead of all or nothing. So that gave me goosebumps.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm really, especially since my son was born, it kind of changed. It's a game changer, isn't it? It's all of a sudden the clothes and the car that you were kind of striving for becomes like, actually, I don't care. I just want him to have experiences and a life that he deserves. So yeah, it kind of changes things, but the outcome's still the same. The big house and I'm looking to. I've always wanted to live in America, actually, weirdly. So I'm wanting to live abroad, maybe for a short term, doing the whole, what's his name? I always forget. The guy did, what's it called? I can't remember. He lived abroad for he used to do, he called them mini retirements.
Okay.
And yeah, the 5-hour work week. What's that guy called?
Oh, Tim Ferriss.
Tim Ferriss. Yeah. In his book, he talks about mini retirement. So every year he'd do 3 months. And he was talking about the benefits of that and stuff like that. And the idea of that's really cool. Before Teddy ends up going to school and we're kind of stuck in the same place I grew up and the same people around and all that kind of stuff, I don't want to get to that point and go, shit, I wonder what our life would have been like if we'd have liked it when we went to America, and what life would have come like. I don't want to, in my life, I just don't want regrets. Naturally, you're going to have some, but I don't want any big regrets where I wish I'd have done something and I was just didn't take that chance. So yeah, I'd love to kind of go to America and kind of set up camp for 3 months somewhere and just see what it was like. Because I think a lot of these places seem great on the surface, and actually you go, oh, it's just not home. But we'll see, and you never know until you try, do you? So the world's a big place. I don't want to continue to live in the same place, and then Teddy grows up and he lives in the same place, and it's like, you never know what's on the other side of the water and what life could be like, because the idea of an outdoor lifestyle is amazing to me. Teddy loves being outside, and in the UK we're 9 months of the year is an indoor activity pretty much. The idea of going somewhere like California or somewhere like that where it's the opposite, and it's an outdoor healthy lifestyle, and I just feel like it's full of opportunities, but that's potentially in the future, but we'll see.
Yeah, I completely agree with what you just said there, because it was only literally probably about a week ago, me and my partner went out just to exercise during the lockdown, and we just was looking at each other thinking, because of what's happened now, everything changes. So we're like, okay, so this is like a reset. So what do we really want to do? Let's realign everything and just, find out what's important again. And we literally just decided that as soon as we get out of this and then into January in the new year, we're making some plans now to go and live in different countries, but we don't know where we want to end up or where we want to stay. I've already got 3 children here in the UK. Some are big, like 18, 15 and 13, which live with their mum, and they're here every weekend. We have joint custody, so they can travel anywhere around the world, jump on a plane, etc., all those things. So we said, let's just do it in the new year. We're just going to go and travel and just stay wherever we want and stay there for maybe a month, maybe 3 months, just to explore, to find out where we want to live or have a second home, and just do half the year in the UK, half the year over there, come back maybe for the summer. It's something my nan and granddad did years ago, because my family's all from overseas, Malta and the Caribbean islands. So they've always lived that lifestyle. My mum's about to do it and go back to Malta. So I said, why don't we just do it? So what you just said, I completely agree. And we're just going to try things, different countries, live somewhere for a month, 3 months, see how it goes, still run the companies from your laptop, fly back to London when you have to for work, if it's, really important meetings, and if there's planes, and if aviation goes back to how it was.
That's the other thing as well, isn't it? It's, you don't have to commit to living there per se. You could do, like you say, 6 months there, 6 months here, 3 months split between. You can, there's I think it's so possible nowadays to, especially, I'm not sure how, like you say, air travel is going to be after all this, but I mean, beforehand it was so cheap. You could fly to New York for 250 quid. It's like, it's not that difficult to kind of put that into your expenditure and kind of go, okay, well, let's do 3 months. We'll come back to UK for another 3, go for another 3, come back. And that's another big thing for me as well, being able to do everything that I need to in my business from a laptop. That is of huge importance to me, for that exact reason, just flexibility, more than anything, really.
Yeah, 100%. Well, we could be chatting for hours just about property, business, life, and some other things and everything that's going on. So it's been fantastic having you on the show. I mean, where can people find you? They can find out more about everything that's going on. Where can they find you? Anybody listening to this?
Yeah, so thanks for having me. First of all, it's been absolutely awesome. Like you say, whenever I come on any of these things, it's like you always feel like you're cutting it short. We need to go grab a beer or something and do a sort of all nighter. But so Instagram's Jack Wicks UK. Wicks, not like Wicks's hard store. There's no E in there. Jack Wicks UK is also on TikTok. You'll find me on Facebook. We've also got a Facebook group for our rent to rent, which is Systems for Rent to Rent with Jack Wicks. So you should be able to find that one. Look out for the Brand New podcast coming out on the 18th of May. And then, the Brand New University that will come after, and absolutely anything else that I can concoct while we're stuck inside.
Yeah, I'm sure there'll be lots more. So, that's brilliant. I mean, the audience are going to get some huge value from everything that you shared today. We'll make sure that we put all the contact details in the show notes so everyone can follow you or find out more about what you're doing or get involved and watch some of your TikToks. And
I answer every single DM, every single comment, every single DM. I'm super on the case with making sure that no one goes without a comment back. So if anyone has any questions about anything, then feel free to give me a message.
Brilliant. Well, I'd love to have you back on the show in the future again, see once Brand New is launched, once the podcast has gone live, and if we can do anything to help out with that as well. And
amazing.
See where things are in a few months as well.
Thanks so much. Cheers for having me.
Sure. I'll talk to you soon.
He's a #1 Amazon bestseller. He's an NLP manipulator. He's a property course seller. He's a Lamborghini driving multi-millionaire property guru. Forget that same old boring I am me narcissistic podcast format, because nobody gives a fuck. This podcast is all about you. So I'm taking these few seconds to thank you for subscribing, to thank you for leaving your 5-star reviews, and thank you for sharing this show with all of your friends. My team and I will keep bringing you these episodes and answering all of your burning questions in my Facebook community group called Property Crash Course. If you can just keep telling all of your friends about this show.